Welcome to Hancock's VMware Half Hour, and welcome back to another Hancock's VMware Half Hour on a lovely Sunday afternoon here in the UK. The weather is fine, the weather is sunny and warm, and I think this week I think we're in for a warm one. Anyway, let's get on with today's video. So today, if you've been following me in the last last 10 videos, in fact, actually, when we've actually looked at the Minisforum MS-A2, which you know that we are obsessed with here at Hancock's VMware Half Hour, you will know that we've been doing a lot of things with it. We've been setting up NVMe namespaces, and we finally got round to installing ESXi 8, and we finally got round to ESXi 9. Which a number of people had actually requested after watching the Doom legacy versions and the Dark Ages versions that I did, and they basically turned around and said, "Oh, that was cool, but does it play? Can it run ESXi 9?" And I think that we've actually shown from that video, those videos, both ESXi 8 and ESXi 9 run very well on the MS-A2. So anyway, as promised, in those last couple of videos, I did actually turn around and say that we would install vCenter Server 9 on the MS-A2. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the vCenter Server 9 installer really is much the same really as a lot of the other installers that we've seen in the past. There we've got install, upgrade and restore. So if you've done one of these installations before, it's not a lot of difference. The big difference, I suppose, really with vCenter Server 9, of course, is that we don't add a license to it anymore. The same with ESXi 9. The license is provided by VCF operations now, and we'll install VCF operations probably in the next video. And we'll have a little look at licenses being served, if you like, or distributed by that platform. Anyway, so let's crack on. I'm going to click install now. I'm not going to go on about it a lot, but I have already created FQDNs for our MS-A2. So I've called it ms-a2.cyrus-consultants.co.uk. So there's an A record. I have created an A record in our DNS. Now, we happen to use Microsoft DNS here, AD integrated, but you could use Unbound, you could be using DNS on Ubuntu, or you could be using info blocks. Create an A record in your DNS. And I've also created an A record for vCenter 9A as well. By now, you should know that you really should be getting used to and using FQDNs for your VMware vSphere infrastructure. And your infrastructure really is only going to be as good as your DNS. Anyway, so we're going to accept the EULA. I'm going to use the FQDN for our ESXi server. Now, I have come across a few people really when setting up vCenter server, or when installing vCenter server, they get a little bit confused about the vCenter server deployment target, which could be in this environment at the moment. Really, I suppose we're a greenfield site. We've got a single ESXi host. We don't have a vCenter server at the moment. So the only thing really that we can specify as a target is our ESXi host, but there's no reason why I couldn't have actually basically installed MS-A. There's no reason why I couldn't actually basically deploy or install VMware vCenter server to another cluster managed by another VMware vCenter server. Now, VMware vCenter server, of course, is just a management server. It doesn't host anything. It's not a host. It's not an ESXi host. It's just a management server. So I'm going to specify the ESXi host because I don't technically have a vCenter server at the moment on this particular target. And the whole point really of doing this video is that I actually wanted to see how well the MS-A2 performs. I've already installed Windows Server 2025, and I was surprised at how fast I could install that operating system, and how fast and how well that Windows Server 2025 performance is. We all know VMware vCenter Server is a performance hog. It really is. And I think sometimes we can see startup times probably between 10 and 30 minutes in environments that I have seen. When I mean start up, I mean started all the services so that we can actually basically log in with no messages like no healthy upstream, web client initializing, and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to specify the root user name and password for our ESXi server, our MS-A2, followed by next. So I'm going to accept the certificate which has been created by VMware Engineering and VMware. I've done a couple of videos on how to actually basically roll your own certificates using a Microsoft CA, so I can drop that in the description, or you can have a little look at the playlist where we've done that. Okay, so now we're going to set a root password for the VMware vCenter server appliance. We don't really call it an appliance anymore, but it is. So I'm going to specify the root password for that, followed by next. And that's going to go off and hopefully validate it. Okay, so this is a lab server. We're not going to be certainly more than 10 hosts. So I'm going to create a tiny deployment size and storage size of default, followed by next. I'm going to install this on our datastore 1. I'm going to enable thin mode. Now, our datastore 1, of course, is the leftover bit of our enterprise SSD, our NVMe U.2 device. And that was the first namespace that I created for the ESXi operating system installation. And then the spare portion of that has been created as a data store. So that's what I'm going to select, followed by next. Okay, so now we're going to get into the bits and pieces. So here's our FQDN. Now it says brackets optional. Ignore that. I don't like the fact that it actually basically says that is optional at all. I think it's a bit of a red herring, to be honest with you. Again, as I said, make sure that you have a host A record created before you even start the installation. And also, really, it would help. You know, I don't see it too much these days. But when yeah, you know, I'm going to say, you know, back to Novell days and early Windows NT days, you know, like, you know, when we were designing and installing infrastructure and servers, we used to see at the back of the book in the documentation, it had a cheat sheet for basically filling in, you know, your IP addresses and your FQDNs and your default gateways and the DNS servers, so you could just lift them straight off the page, straight into configuring network settings. So if it helps you, have all that information to hand before you start. You know, now, you know, I'm doing all these from muscle memory or memory. Anyway, so DNS servers, 2 at least. I'm not going to bother with I'm not going to change any of the ports. I'm not going to change 80, I'm not going to change 443. And I'm not basically going to have a look at any allocation scheme optional here. So just having a quick look, VM network, IPv4, static, FQDN, IP addresses, DNS servers, followed by next. IP address, oh, okay, I've got that wrong, of course. The IP address, probably just going to have to, I think I know what it was. Yeah, okay, 138.213. My bad. getting confused with the IP address of the hosts, followed by next. So that was a good catch. Okay, so I'm ready to complete stage 1. So I'm just going to click finish, and I'm going to wait for it to deploy stage 1. And all that's actually really doing now is deploying an OVA to our VMware vSphere server. And if I just flick back, and if I just turn off, that screen. Okay, so there you go. There's our VMware vCenter server that's been created on our host, and you can see here that it's basically deploying the OVA, and it's at about 14%. So there we go. That's going on in the background. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to bob off. I'm going to come back in post. Well, I'm not going to go back in post. I'm going to come back when this is finished. I'll speed this portion up in post because we don't really want to be hanging around waiting for it to deploy VMware vCenter server. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I'm back. Okay, that didn't take very long. So let's proceed with stage 2, and I'll click continue. So the next stage really, again, I'm sure you've done this many times. So we're just going to click next. VMware vCenter server has now been powered up on the host. Time synchronization method. Well, I normally actually synchronize time with my NTP servers. Will enable SSH access. But I'm going to try this again because I have no idea why, that for some strange reason it doesn't like my NTP servers, which I find strange because they work with 8. ESXi 9 works with them. ESXi 8 works with them. Everything here works with them. But for some strange reason, unknown only to vCenter Server 9 installer, it tells me that it's unable to sync. So that's the first one. And if I actually basically try the second one, so I don't know whether or not that something has changed in vCenter Server 9, that what it's actually expecting, but these are just standard time servers. You know, in fact, they happen to be 2 Raspberry Pis connected to GPS boards that have GPS external antennas, and they have the time pulse signal to synchronize them as well. So they're actually synchronized to the GPS clock. And again, that they have been working this time servers here in the home lab forever. Well, certainly for the last 12 years or 13 years or even longer. So I just find that odd. I'm going to have to do some research into that. So I wouldn't normally do it, but anyway, I'll synchronize time with the ESXi host, which is actually synchronized to those time servers anyway and working. So I have no idea why it's unable to sync to NTP server. Makes me think that it can't reach 141, 255, 137, 54, 52, but I tested all that. For some reason, it just doesn't want to synchronize with them. Anyway, so moving on. Followed by next. If you know the reason why, then drop a note in the description as to why. Okay, so we're going to use the standard default. I don't know if anybody ever changes this. So vSphere local, single sign-on password. So this is the password for administrator at vSphere local. If I can just type that in that box. So I'm followed by next. Yeah, we're going to join the Broadcom Customer Experience Program, followed by next. Let's have a little look. So sign static IP address. Yep, that looks okay. So I'm just going to click finish, followed by OK. And again, long wait. Or probably not so long really on this particular server, because it's going to start up these very, very quickly. So again, I'm just going to I'm going to bob off, and I'll come back and we'll speed all this up in post so you don't have to watch it as well. And I'm back. That was quick. That was very, very quick. Considering the number of vCenter installations that I've done over the years, that was very quick. Very, very, very quick, which doesn't surprise me really. And for the first time, I actually basically noticed the noise that the MS-A2 was generating, and that's even with the cans on. Okay, so we should just be able to click vCenter 9a-saris-consultants.co.uk. Just let me drop this screen because you're not going to see it. There we go. So I'll tell you what we'll do. Just let me try. I was actually going to try zooming in, but it didn't work. Hang on. Let's click launch vSphere client. Log in with administrator at vSphere.local. And tell you what we're going to do. Okay, so we've got the big orange screen operating in evaluation mode. But I tell you what we'll do. We'll just create a quick data center. We'll call it Datacentre. And we will just add a quick host MS-A2, followed by next, and again root username and password, followed by next. Yeah, accept the certificate, followed by next. I'm going to extract the image from the host. Next. Yeah, followed by next. Disable. That's the location, and I'm going to click finish. Now, the reason I didn't actually basically use the repository to create the image is because I've got to add the download token to Lifecycle Manager before I can do that. Because of course now that the download tokens are required for Lifecycle Manager, it doesn't actually sort of kind of work out the box. So I don't really know how you can use. You probably maybe have what you'd have to do is you'd have to go into Lifecycle Manager once you've actually basically installed a VMware vCenter server, make those changes in Lifecycle Manager. And what I'm talking about here is if we go up to Lifecycle Manager, and if we actually basically go to settings and our download sources, then we would need to add our download token here, so that basically it's connected and actually basically populating the lifecycle repo before we could obviously generate an image. So that's why I've actually basically just sort of kind of said create the image from the existing host. So if I was in production, I'd have done it that way. Okay, let's just go back to the inventory. Okay. So okay, so This error message here that we've got about the TPM device is because the TPM device in the MS-A2 is not compatible with the ESXi. So we can ignore those error messages. And it's probably also because I'm booted in secure boot mode, and that's enabling secure boot and the TPM. So if I want to get rid of that annoying message, I need to go back into the BIOS, turn off secure boot, and then hopefully that's going to disappear. So one of the things I'm really keen to time and test is how fast does VMware vCenter server actually boot up on the MS-A2. This was one of the things that, out of curiosity, I'm interested to see how quick that it actually basically performs. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut it down, I'm going to restart it, and we'll see how long it actually basically takes to boot. Okay, so I've got my stopwatch on the phone ready. VMware vCenter server is turned off. So I'm basically just going to give it a power on because obviously I'm connected into the HTML web client on ESXi. I've got a ping session going. Oh, I've not even started. So there we go. We've started. So I'm keen to see how quick. Okay, so we've already actually basically got, it's been 12 seconds. And we've already basically got a ping response from VMware vCenter server. So let's just see if we can actually basically just do a refresh yet. Okay, so it's telling me that the vSphere client services have stopped working. As I said, normally it would help if I got the so we've still got a ping response. So it's obviously starting services, but you know, we're still inside 60 seconds at the moment. So, you know, I'm actually basically keen to see, because as I say, I think we all know that VMware vCenter server is a hog. We obviously don't restart it a lot. Okay, so, you know, we're just over a minute and 9 seconds, and we've got the vSphere web server is initializing. So that's quick. You know, are we going to be sub 5 minutes? Yep. That can't be real. This cannot be real. Look at that. Absolutely gobsmacked. Under 1 minute and 30 seconds, and VMware vCenter server has started and initialized. You know, that's absolutely incredible. I'm going to do that again. That was so fast. Less than, I think, 1 minute and 30 seconds. And vCenter server was available. So I'm going to do it again. Okay, so do it. Anyway, okay. Power on. So again, need to start. So I think before, I think we saw that after about 10 seconds, we actually basically got, oh, there we go. So 9 seconds. So under 10 seconds, and basically it's initialized the network interface, and we're actually basically getting a response. 141.255.138.213. Let's just refresh. Okay, so the fact that the VMware vSphere client, that's actually basically coming back from the device. That's coming back from the appliance. So we're at 40 seconds. I can hear that MS-A2 screaming in the background here. So are we going to get the web client initializing message this time? Just thinking about it. Actually, we're over a minute now. So we've got 30 more seconds left. Oh dear, maybe we've broken something. 1 minute 10. There we go. So the vSphere web server is initializing. 1 minute 15 seconds. So we got 15 more seconds to go. There we go. Initialize 1 minute. So that was about 1 minute and 20 seconds. Impressive stuff. Really, really impressive stuff. Anyway, there you go. MS-A2 on fire. You know, so, you know, the performance really, you know, of the AMD Ryzen 9, you know, and that underlying endurance enterprise SSD that we got there, that NVMe device, that U.2, is all helping there. Anyway, so there you go. Super fast vCenter server 9 running on a Minisforum MS-A2, and that MS-A2 is still screaming in the background there. Anyway, so if you've enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up. If you don't like this video, then give it a thumbs down. Tell me why in the description. Don't forget to subscribe and share. My name's Andrew Hancock at Hancock's VMware Half Hour. A wasp has just flown in my office. Anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed this video, and come back for another video in the Hancock's VMware Half Hour series. So good afternoon and goodbye.